Welcome to InterviewPro. In this video, let's see how to create a loader component. Real-time applications access data from an API or perform complex computations or load resources like images or videos. This may take some time. Without a loader icon, user might perceive that the application is unresponsive or broken, leading to bad user experience. The user might keep initiating multiple requests while the first task is still in progress. So, a loader icon provides visual feedback, letting users know that the application is working on their request. It makes the application user friendly. Now we know why a loader is important. Let's add one to our application. I'll be using the same application that we have been using from the last few videos. We have a navbar which has a link users. When I click on users, we see the list of users displayed. As of now, this is hard-coded user information, hence there is no delay. So let's add some delay here. Instead of using the user's constant directly, let's load the data on component mount. And to hold the data, let me create a state variable called users and set users equals use state of with an initial value empty array. And we want this data to be loaded when this component loads initially. So use effect inside this and also don't forget to give an empty dependency array because we want this to be loaded only when the component is initialized. So we'll use set users of users constant. Now we want a delay while loading the users. So I'll use set timeout here. Or you can use any API that is going to take some time to load the data. And we'll place this inside the set timeout. Now instead of using this users constant, we can make use of the state variable. Also for this example, I don't want to throw any error. So I'll simply replace this and also add a condition here. If the user's data is available, only then we'll loop through this user's details. So let's save this, go back to UI. If I click on users, initially there are no users available here. After 5 seconds, we'll see the users. The users are loaded. But while it was loading, I didn't know what is happening in the UI. So it's always better to give some response to the user to let them know that the application is working on their request. To let the user know that the data is being loaded, let's add a loader icon. I have already added a loader icon to the public assets images folder. So this is our loader icon. Also, I have created a component called spinner. In this spinner, the props is going to have a variable called show. If this show comes as true, then we'll display the spinner. Otherwise, we don't display the spinner. And this spinner is coming from the public folder. Inside public, we have assets. Inside assets, we have a folder called images, and there we have loader.gif. Now, let's try to access this component. Also, I have added the CSS for this spinner component. So this is going to occupy the entire screen, and the screen is going to turn gray. On top of that, we are going to display the spinner image at the center. Now we need to access this spinner when the user is not loaded. In users component, import spinner component and pass the property show. For now, I'll pass true here to see how it works. Let's go back to UI. Let me just refresh this. You see that the spinner is loading. Now we want this spinner to stop when the data is loaded. So let me create another state variable which is named as is loading and set is loading. Initial value will be true because when the component is loaded, the loader has to be visible. And once the component loading is completed, we need to set this value to false. So let's use this set is loading and pass false to this. And instead of passing hard-coded value here to the show property, I'll use is loading and save this, go back to UI. Let's just refresh this. Once you click on users, we see that the loader icon is visible. Once the data is loading, this has to go, and yes, it did. So once the data is loaded, the loader icon has gone. After 5 seconds, this will disappear when the data is visible. So we were successful in implementing the loader component. Let's just open inspect, and let me go back and update this value to true. And now we see the loader present. So if we look at the HTML here, we have a root component which is responsible for holding all the components in our application and binding it to the HTML, index.html. Inside root we have app. Inside app we have a header and also the users component. Inside user component we have the spinner. But does it really come under this hierarchy? Because when we see the loader or when the loader is active, all actions are restricted in the whole application until this loader is gone. So it's just an overlay on top of the application, right? So it's more logical to treat the spinner outside the hierarchy. To achieve this, React DOM has provided a method called createPortal. If we want to render our spinner outside the root div, we need a parent to hold this spinner, right? So let's go to index.html. This is our root div. Let's create another div which says spinner because we want the spinner outside of this root. So we have the placeholder for spinner. Now go to spinner.js. As I mentioned, React DOM has a method called createPortal. So let's import React DOM dot createPortal. Inside this createPortal, we'll place our JSX. The second parameter to this create portal is the element to which we want to bind this HTML. If you recollect, in index.html we have root, but how is React knowing to bind all our components to this root element? That is because if you go to index.js, we have React DOM. Inside this React DOM, we have a method called createRoot. So this is going to bind the app component to this root element. Similarly, React DOM createPortal method also binds this HTML or JSX to spinner component. So we'll access spinner by its ID, get element by ID, and the ID is nothing but spinner. Import React DOM from React DOM. Also, we need to pass is loading to spinner in users. So let's revert this to is loading. Now if I go to users, we see the loader, and once the data is loaded, the spinner is gone. So what is the difference? Let's inspect. If you look at the body, we have a root and the spinner is rendered outside the root. So previously it was inside the users component. Now it is outside the root. So this is how we can use create portal to render components that are not really under the parent hierarchy. If you want to implement loaders or model pop-ups or tooltips which are not really part of the actual parent hierarchy, you can always make use of create portal. So this is all about create portal in React. I hope the concept is clear. If you like the content, please like, share and subscribe to InterviewPro. Thank you.